The morning sun shone softly through the thin curtains of a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The room was modest, with worn furniture and a small kitchen that had seen better days. Yet, it was filled with warmth, laughter, and a sense of love that money could never buy. Mariah, a young black woman with gentle eyes and a determined spirit, moved quickly through the apartment, making sure everything was in order. Her 3 children, identical triplets, were already awake, bouncing around in excitement and playfulness. The boys were inseparable, not just because of their shared appearance but because of a bond that was deeper than words could express. Even at their young age, they had developed personalities that complemented each other. One was thoughtful and careful, another bold and confident, and the third was quiet but observant, always noticing details others missed. Mariah had not asked for an easy life. She had dreamed of simple happiness, of raising her children in a safe and loving environment, and of giving them the opportunities she had never had. But life had a way of testing her strength. She worked long hours at a local hospital, cleaning rooms and assisting nurses, often leaving before dawn and returning long after the children had gone to bed. Despite her exhaustion, she never let her fatigue show in front of the boys. She believed in showing them that love, care, and sacrifice were the most important things a parent could give. Every night, she tucked them in with stories of hope, courage, and dreams. She reminded them that life might be hard, but together, they could overcome anything. Today, however, the weight of the world seemed heavier than usual. A letter had arrived a few weeks ago, its official tone and formal words striking fear into her heart. It was a court summons. Someone claimed the children were in danger and that Mariah was not fit to raise them. The thought of losing the boys, even for a moment, filled her with panic. She had given everything for them, and now, she faced the unimaginable, fighting to keep her family intact in a courtroom that might not understand the depth of her love or the sacrifices she had made. She had consulted with a lawyer, who had assured her that the law was on her side, but Mariah knew that the law was not just about facts, it was about perception, power, and sometimes luck. The boys sensed the tension in the air, even if they did not understand the details. They had overheard fragments of conversations and seen the worry etched on their mother's face. In their small but resilient hearts, they had made a silent promise to each other: no matter what happened, they would stand by their mother. They understood that life was unpredictable, and that sometimes, adults made mistakes or faced challenges that children could not fully comprehend. But they also knew that their mother was their world, and they would not let anyone take her away. As Mariah prepared breakfast, she noticed how the sunlight danced on the boys' faces, highlighting the striking similarity between them. They were 3 halves of a whole, each carrying a piece of her heart. She smiled despite the fear gnawing at her stomach. The bond they shared was unbreakable, and that thought gave her strength. She reminded herself that love was her shield, courage was her sword, and together, they could face whatever the world threw at them. After breakfast, the boys got ready for school. They moved with an unusual seriousness, sensing the importance of the day without fully understanding it. Mariah helped them with their uniforms, tying shoelaces and smoothing collars, her hands trembling slightly with the tension she tried to hide. She packed their lunches with care, making sure each sandwich was perfect, each apple polished and shiny. "Remember," she said softly, "be kind, be honest, and look out for each other. That is more important than anything else." The boys nodded, their eyes wide with determination. They had internalized her words. They knew they had a mission, even if they did not yet know the details. The triplets walked to the school bus together, their small hands brushing against each other as if seeking reassurance. Mariah watched from the window, her heart a mix of fear and pride. She had raised these boys to be strong, to be compassionate, and to never give up. Yet, she worried that the outside world, with its judgments and rules, might not see the truth of their family. She whispered a silent prayer, asking for guidance, for courage, and for the protection of her children. She hoped that somehow, the universe would recognize the love she had poured into them and allow them to remain together, safe and unharmed. By the time the bus drove away, Mariah was left alone with her thoughts. She walked through the apartment, straightening cushions and tidying up, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. But her mind kept returning to the court case, to the stern letters, and to the possibility of losing the children she loved more than life itself. She thought of the long nights she had spent working double shifts, of the meals she had skipped so her children could eat, and of the tears she had shed silently when she thought no one was watching. Every sacrifice she had made now seemed to hang in the balance, threatened by a legal system that might not understand the depth of a mother's love. When the afternoon came, she received a call from her lawyer, reminding her of the time of the hearing. Mariah's heart raced as she listened, her mind racing with scenarios both hopeful and frightening. She hung up and took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She knew she had to be strong, not just for herself but for her children. They were counting on her, and she could not fail them. She reminded herself that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it head-on. As evening approached, the boys returned home, their faces bright with excitement and energy, temporarily pushing aside the worry of the day. They ran into the apartment, laughing and talking over each other, their voices filling the small space with life. Mariah greeted them with a warm hug, feeling a mixture of relief and renewed determination. She had seen how brave they were, even in their innocence, and it gave her hope that together, they could face any challenge. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that the bond they shared was stronger than any obstacle. That night, after dinner, the boys gathered around her, their eyes filled with curiosity and concern. They asked questions, trying to understand what was happening, and Mariah answered with honesty tempered by reassurance. She explained that sometimes adults had to go to special places to solve problems, but that she would always be there for them, no matter what. The boys nodded solemnly, their faces serious but determined. They had made a silent promise to protect their family, and they would not break it. As the night deepened, Mariah tucked the boys into bed, smoothing their hair and whispering words of love and encouragement. She reminded them that courage and kindness were the greatest powers they possessed, and that together, they could overcome anything. The boys drifted to sleep, comforted by her presence and the warmth of their shared bond. Mariah stayed by their side for a moment longer, watching their peaceful faces, feeling a mixture of pride, love, and determination. She knew that the days ahead would be challenging, but she also knew that they had the strength to face them, together. In the quiet of the night, Mariah reflected on her journey. She thought of all the obstacles she had overcome, all the sacrifices she had made, and all the love she had poured into her children. She knew that the courtroom would test her in ways she had never imagined, but she also knew that her love for her children was unshakable. She whispered a prayer of gratitude for the bond they shared, asking for guidance and strength for the battles to come. She knew that whatever happened, they were a family united by love, courage, and unwavering loyalty. The next morning, the small apartment felt unusually quiet. Mariah had left early for work, as she did every day, but today her mind was elsewhere. Today was not like any other day. Today, the boys were going to do something that no one expected children their age to do. They were going to step into a world of adults, a world full of rules, judgments, and consequences, to defend the person they loved most in the world, their mother. The triplets sat around their small kitchen table, each with a notebook in front of them. They had decided, in their own childlike determination, that if they could understand the situation and prepare themselves, they could help. "We have to know everything," said Elijah, the eldest by minutes, his voice steady and serious. He had always been the thinker of the three, the one who noticed details and planned carefully. "If we understand what is happening, we can tell the judge why Mom is the best mom in the world." Micah, the boldest of the triplets, slammed his small fist on the table for emphasis. "Yes. We can do it. Nobody is going to take our mom away. We will show them how strong we are and how much we love her. His eyes sparkled with a mixture of excitement and determination. He was fearless, ready to confront anything, and his energy was infectious. The youngest, Josiah, was quieter but no less determined. He was the observer, the one who noticed things others missed. He picked up his pencil and began writing notes, making lists of arguments they could use. "We have to tell the judge everything about how Mom takes care of us," he said softly. "About how she wakes up early, how she works so hard, how she makes sure we have food and clean clothes. We can't let them forget that." The boys worked together, discussing and planning. They remembered the stories their mother had told them about bravery and standing up for what was right. They thought of the nights she stayed awake when they were sick, the mornings she woke them with warm smiles, and the weekends she spent helping them with homework even when she was exhausted. They wrote everything down, determined to present a clear picture of her love and dedication. As they prepared, their minds kept drifting to the courtroom. They had seen movies and television shows, but nothing could truly prepare them for what awaited. They imagined the stern judge, the formal room, the cold wooden benches, and the intimidating lawyers. They felt nervous, but they also felt a sense of purpose. They were not just going to sit quietly, they were going to fight for their family. They had each other, and together, they felt unstoppable. By mid-morning, the triplets were ready. They wore their neatest clothes, shirts tucked in and shoes polished. Their small backpacks were filled with the notes they had prepared, each argument written clearly, each point carefully thought out. They stood in front of the mirror, adjusting collars and straightening hair. "We have to look confident," Elijah said. "If we look scared, the judge might think we don't know what we are talking about." Micah grinned. "We will look like little generals, ready to defend our mom." The boys laughed, a sound full of excitement and courage, but beneath the laughter was a serious determination that made even the air around them feel charged. When they arrived at the courthouse, they were struck by its grandeur. The tall columns, the wide steps, and the heavy wooden doors made them pause for a moment. They held hands, each drawing strength from the other. "Together," whispered Josiah. "No matter what, together." The triplets stepped inside, their small feet echoing against the marble floors. They were met by a security guard who looked down at them in surprise. "Children here?" He asked quietly where their mother was, and the boys explained. He guided them through the bustling hallways, past people rushing to their cases, past the sound of shuffling papers and distant voices. When they entered the courtroom, they froze for a moment. It was even more imposing than they had imagined. High ceilings loomed above, and rows of polished wooden benches stretched across the room. At the front sat a large desk, behind which the judge would preside. Lawyers in sharp suits whispered to each other, shuffling papers and preparing for the day's proceedings. Mariah was already there, sitting nervously in the front row, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes lit up when she saw the boys, and she gave them a reassuring smile. The judge entered the room, his robe flowing behind him, and the courtroom fell silent. He looked around, scanning the room with a serious expression. The triplets held their breath, unsure what to do. They had prepared so much, yet the reality of the courtroom was overwhelming. The judge called the case, and everyone rose in unison. When the boys stepped forward, a hush fell over the room. The judge's eyes widened slightly when he saw the three of them standing together, identical and determined. He had not expected children to be involved so directly, and yet there they were, standing confidently before him. He glanced at Mariah, then back at the boys, and a flicker of curiosity crossed his face. The triplets began to speak, their voices steady despite the nerves that tightened their stomachs. Elijah took the lead. "Your Honor," he said clearly, "we are here because we love our mom. She takes care of us every day. She wakes up early to make sure we eat breakfast, she works hard so we can have a home, and she never lets us go without what we need. She is the best mom in the world, and we want to stay with her." Micah added, "She helps us with school, she reads to us at night, and she teaches us right from wrong. She never gives up on us, even when things are hard. We are her family, and we love her, and we know she loves us. Please don't take her away from us." His voice was full of emotion, trembling slightly but carrying a power that could not be ignored. Josiah, the youngest, stepped forward and held up his notebook. "We wrote down everything she does for us. We wanted to make sure you know the truth. Mom is the best mom we could ever have. We want to stay with her." He opened the notebook and began to read passages they had carefully written: the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, and the love that had always been present in every small action. The courtroom was silent, except for the soft sound of pages turning. The judge leaned forward, intrigued and visibly moved by the children's words. There was honesty in their voices, a sincerity that no adult argument could match. They spoke not with legal jargon, but with the pure, simple truth of love and loyalty. Their words painted a picture of a mother who had given everything for her children, a mother whose love was unwavering, and a bond that was unbreakable. As the triplets finished, the judge looked at Mariah, then back at the children. Something in his eyes changed, a flicker of recognition, a sudden awareness. He seemed to hesitate, as if something from the past had surfaced unexpectedly. He looked closer at the children, their features, their expressions, their intensity. A memory began to form in his mind, a connection he had not realized before. He cleared his throat, trying to compose himself, but the recognition was undeniable. These children, these three determined, fearless triplets, looked familiar in a way that shook him to his core. The courtroom waited in tense silence as the judge's mind raced. He had known Mariah long ago, before life had pulled them in different directions. He had made mistakes, choices that he had regretted deeply, and had lost touch with the people who mattered most. Seeing the children standing there, speaking with such clarity and passion, brought back memories he had tried to forget. The realization struck him: these were his children. His own flesh and blood, standing bravely in front of him, fighting for the woman he had once loved. The judge sat silently for a moment, staring at the three small faces before him. There was a strange mixture of authority and disbelief in his eyes. He had spent years in courtrooms, presiding over disputes, listening to arguments, weighing evidence, and making decisions that affected lives. But never had he encountered something like this: three small children, not just speaking, but pleading with courage and honesty that cut through the weight of law like sunlight through a stormy sky. The triplets, sensing the pause, exchanged nervous glances. "Did we do something wrong?" whispered Josiah, his voice trembling just slightly. Micah shook his head, giving him a reassuring pat on the back. "No, we did exactly what we needed to do," he said softly. "We told the truth. That's all anyone can ask." Elijah, still calm as ever, added, "We just have to wait and see what happens next." The judge cleared his throat, his mind still racing. Memories he had long buried began to surface, memories he had tried to ignore in order to protect himself from guilt and regret. He remembered Mariah, her smile, the way she cared for him when life had been hard, the laughter they had shared. And now, seeing these children, his children, standing bravely, fighting for the woman he had loved, it all came rushing back. He leaned forward, his hands resting on the large wooden desk before him. "Mariah," he said slowly, his voice more gentle than it had been all morning, is there a chance that these children are—" His words faltered, as if even he could not fully believe what he was about to say. Mariah's eyes widened, and her heart began to race. She had never spoken of the past openly in court. The details of her relationship with the judge, her former love, had always remained private. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Your Honor," she said carefully, "these are my children." My triplets. Their father, is someone from my past. I did not expect this day to come, and I did not expect to see him here. The judge's hand shook slightly as he reached for a folder on his desk, almost as if he needed something tangible to ground himself in reality. He opened it slowly, revealing the documents of the case, the petitions, the arguments presented by lawyers, and the records of Mariah's care for her children. But even as he looked at the papers, it was the living, breathing children before him that held his attention. The realization settled fully in his mind, a truth that could not be denied: these were his children. His own flesh and blood. For a moment, the courtroom seemed suspended in time. The lawyers froze, the spectators held their breath, and Mariah sat upright, her hands clutching her lap as she waited for the judge's next words. The triplets, sensing the weight of the moment, straightened in unison. They could feel something significant was happening, even if they could not yet name it. Finally, the judge spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "Children," he said, looking directly at Elijah, Micah, and Josiah, I am going to be honest with you. I am your father. I had no idea that my path would ever cross with yours like this, and yet, here you are, standing before me, bravely defending the woman who gave you life and love." The triplets blinked, unsure what to say. Elijah opened his mouth, but no words came out immediately. Micah's jaw dropped slightly, and Josiah's hands gripped his notebook tightly. The reality of the situation, so sudden, so overwhelming, was hard to comprehend. Mariah's eyes filled with tears, a mix of shock, relief, and a strange sense of validation. She had raised her children alone, never asking for help, always striving to provide the best she could. And now, the truth was finally being acknowledged, in the most unexpected way. The judge leaned back in his chair, taking a deep breath. "I should have been there," he said softly, almost to himself. "I should have known. I failed. But seeing you all now, seeing your courage, I realize how strong Mariah has been. How strong all of you are. This changes everything." Elijah stepped forward, his small voice clear and steady. "Your Honor," he said, "we didn't come here to punish anyone or to make anyone feel bad. We just wanted to make sure Mom stays with us. We love her, and we know she loves us. We only want what's right for our family." Micah nodded vigorously. "Yes. We wanted to show everyone how much Mom does for us. She's always been there, no matter what. We don't want her taken away. She is everything to us." Josiah, his voice soft but determined, added, "We only want to be with her. We are her children, and she is our mom. We don't want anyone to make it different. We just want to stay together." The judge's eyes softened further as he listened. He could see the honesty and purity of their words, the depth of their love for their mother, and the truth of everything they said. He looked at Mariah, seeing the quiet strength she had carried through years of struggle, the resilience and determination that had allowed her to raise 3 children on her own, and he felt a surge of respect and admiration. I understand," he said finally. "And I want to make sure the court understands too. These children have spoken with more honesty and courage than most adults ever do in my courtroom. Their love for you, Mariah, and your dedication to them, it is clear. I see now that taking you away from them would be a grave mistake." The courtroom murmured softly as the weight of his words settled in. The lawyers exchanged glances, the spectators whispered among themselves, and Mariah felt a sense of relief she had never imagined possible. She looked at her children, their eyes shining with hope, and she reached out, taking each of their hands in hers. They squeezed back, a silent promise passing between them that they would face whatever came next together. The judge continued, his voice firm now but gentle. "I am going to take immediate steps to ensure that Mariah retains full custody of her children. This court recognizes her tireless dedication, her unwavering love, and her ability to provide a safe and nurturing environment. Furthermore, I am making a personal commitment to be present in their lives, to support them, and to ensure that the family remains united. Tears streamed down Mariah's face, and she whispered, almost in disbelief, thank you so much." The triplets hugged her tightly, their small arms wrapping around her in a way that conveyed more love and gratitude than words ever could. The judge stood, his robe flowing behind him, and addressed the courtroom. "This case has reminded me, and I hope it reminds all of us, that the truth is not always found in papers and arguments alone. Sometimes, it is found in courage, in honesty, and in the love that people share for one another. These children have shown us all what family truly means." As the courtroom began to settle, a sense of calm and resolution filled the air. The triplets, though exhausted from the intensity of the morning, felt a newfound confidence and pride. They had fought for their mother, spoken from their hearts, and made a difference in a world that often overlooked the voices of children. Mariah, too, felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had always done her best, and now, it was recognized, appreciated, and respected. After the formalities were complete, the judge approached the family personally. He knelt down to meet the triplets at eye level, a rare gesture that surprised everyone in the courtroom. "I know this is sudden," he said gently, "but I want to be a part of your lives from now on. I may not have been there before, but I want to help, to support, and to be a father to you." Elijah, Micah, and Josiah exchanged glances, a mixture of surprise and cautious hope in their eyes. Slowly, they nodded, realizing that the future held possibilities they had never dared to imagine. They hugged him briefly, each in turn, and felt a connection that had been absent for too long, a bond that had now been acknowledged and embraced. Mariah watched, her heart full of gratitude and relief. She had faced so many challenges alone, yet here, in this courtroom, she had found justice, love, and the promise of a complete family. The triplets had not only defended her, they had brought the truth to light, reunited a family, and reminded everyone present of the power of courage, honesty, and love. As they left the courthouse together, hand in hand, the sun shone brightly, as if to celebrate their victory. The triplets walked confidently beside their mother, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly supported, truly seen, and truly loved. The day had begun with uncertainty and fear, but it ended with hope, unity, and the promise of a family that would never be torn apart again. And in that moment, Mariah knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a family, bound not only by blood but by courage, love. After leaving the courthouse, the family stepped into the sunlight, feeling a mixture of relief and wonder. The triplets walked proudly beside their mother, each of them holding her hand tightly. They felt like their voices had finally been heard, like they had accomplished something truly meaningful. The city around them bustled with life, but for Mariah and her children, the noise faded into the background. The only thing that mattered was the bond they had fought to protect, the bond of their family. Mariah paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. She looked at the triplets, her heart swelling with pride. "You were all so brave today," she said softly. "I don't know how I ever got so lucky to have children like you." Elijah, always the calm and thoughtful one, smiled and said, "We just wanted to make sure you were safe, Mom. We love you, and we wanted everyone to see that." Micah added eagerly, "Yes. You've always been there for us, Mom. Always. Now it's our turn to be there for you." Josiah, the quietest of the three, nodded solemnly. "We wanted to show the truth," he said. "That's all." Mariah's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of happiness. For so many years, she had worried, struggled, and faced life alone, carrying the weight of raising 3 children by herself. She had worked long hours, made countless sacrifices, and often wondered if she was doing enough. And now, after everything, She realized that her children had not only understood her, they had stood up for her, defended her, and reminded her that love was stronger than any obstacle. As they walked toward the car, the judge, who had surprised everyone by following them out, approached quietly. Mariah tensed for a moment, unsure of what to expect, but then the judge spoke gently. "Mariah," he said, "I want to make sure you know that this isn't just a legal decision. I want to be part of your lives, and I want to support you all however I can. I was wrong to be absent, but I want to start making it right." Mariah looked at him carefully. She had spent years learning to protect herself and her children from disappointment, but she saw sincerity in his eyes. She nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. "We will need time, but we are willing to try. For the sake of the children." The judge smiled faintly. "That's all I ask," he said. Then he knelt down, so he was at eye level with the triplets. "I know this is sudden, but I hope that one day, you can forgive me for not being there. I want to be a father to you now, and I want to make up for the lost time." Elijah stepped forward first. "We don't know what the future will be like," he said thoughtfully. "But we know that today, you helped make sure Mom stays with us. That matters a lot. We are willing to see what happens next." Micah added, "Yes. We just want a family where we all care for each other. We don't want anyone to feel left out or alone." Josiah, quiet but firm, said, "We will give it a chance. But Mom comes first. She is our family." The judge nodded, clearly moved. "I understand," he said. "I promise, I will respect that. I will always put you and your mother first. That's my responsibility now." Later that day, they all returned to Mariah's small apartment. It wasn't luxurious or fancy, but it was filled with warmth and memories. The walls were decorated with the triplets' drawings, photos of family moments, and little mementos that marked the milestones of their lives. The judge, seeing the space for the first time, looked around with quiet admiration. It wasn't wealth or grandeur that made this home special, it was love, care, and resilience. The triplets rushed to show him their favorite toys, books, and school projects. Elijah pointed to his science experiments, explaining each one in detail. Micah led the judge to a stack of art projects, proudly describing every drawing and painting he had made. Josiah, shy but curious, showed him a collection of small notebooks filled with stories he had written. The judge listened patiently, asking questions and encouraging them, and slowly, the initial tension began to melt away. Mariah watched quietly, feeling a strange sense of hope and relief. For so long, she had faced life alone. Now, there was someone willing to share the responsibilities, someone willing to care for the children, and someone who acknowledged the past without judgment. She realized that family wasn't about perfection, it was about support, honesty, and love. As evening approached, the family sat together for dinner. It wasn't a fancy meal, just simple sandwiches, soup, and fruit, but it was filled with laughter and conversation. The triplets were curious about their father, asking questions about his childhood, his work, and the things he liked. The judge answered carefully, not trying to impress them, but simply sharing pieces of himself that he hoped would help them connect. Elijah asked about the judge's favorite memories from when he was a boy. Micah wanted to know what his father liked to eat and what games he enjoyed. Josiah, with his thoughtful expression, asked about lessons his father had learned in life. The judge responded honestly, sharing both successes and mistakes, trying to teach the children without overwhelming them. Mariah watched all of this quietly, her heart swelling with emotion. For the first time in years, she felt like the future was brighter, like there was a chance for healing and happiness. After dinner, they sat together in the living room, the triplets curling up on the couch while Mariah and the judge spoke quietly. "I know I can't change the past," the judge said softly. "But I want to do everything I can to help in the present and the future. I want to be there for the children and for you. Mariah nodded, tears streaming down her face again. That's all I've ever wanted, she said. To know that we can face life together, as a family. The triplets, sensing the serious moment between the adults, stayed quiet, but their small hands found their mothers and squeezed them tightly. They didn't fully understand all the complexities of adult life, but they understood love, protection, and trust. And in that moment, they felt safe and hopeful. Days turned into weeks, and the judge began to visit more often. He helped with schoolwork, taught them new things, and even played games with them in the park. The triplets slowly started to trust him, realizing that he wasn't just a stranger from the courtroom, but a father who genuinely wanted to be part of their lives. Mariah noticed the changes too. She saw the triplets' confidence grow, their laughter become fuller, and their hearts open to the idea of a new kind of family life. One evening, as they all sat together reading stories before bedtime, Elijah whispered to his mother, "Mom, it's strange, but it feels like our family is finally complete." Micah added, "Yes. I never thought we could feel this happy after all the stress. But now, it's different." Josiah nodded quietly, his small hand resting on his mother's arm. "I like this. I like having Dad here too." Mariah smiled, her heart full. She knew the journey ahead would not always be easy. There would be challenges, disagreements, and adjustments. But she also knew that love had a way of finding solutions, of bringing people together, and of healing wounds. She looked at her children and then at the judge, realizing that life had given them a second chance, a chance to build a family based on honesty, trust, and care. As the night grew darker, Mariah tucked the triplets into bed, holding them close for a moment longer than usual. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "You fought for us today, and you made sure our family stays together. Always remember, no matter what happens, we are a family. And family means never giving up on each other." The triplets smiled sleepily, feeling secure and loved. They knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures, new lessons, and new moments of joy. But for now, they were content, wrapped in the warmth of home and family. Downstairs, the judge sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on the day. He had spent years in a courtroom, making decisions for others, but he had never experienced the depth of emotion he felt now. He realized that being a father was not about authority or rules, it was about presence, care, and unconditional love. And for the first time in his life, he felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The next morning, the sun rose brightly over the city, and with it came a renewed sense of hope. The triplets woke up excited, ready to start a day filled with learning, laughter, and love. Mariah prepared breakfast, and the judge joined them, helping set the table and sharing stories from his past. Together, they laughed, planned, and simply enjoyed being a family. In the weeks that followed, the bond between the triplets, Mariah, and the judge grew stronger. They learned from each other, supported each other, and celebrated both small victories and big milestones. The judge became a father in practice, not just in time past, and life began to settle into a new rhythm for Mariah, the triplets, and their father. The days were filled with laughter, learning, and small victories that made every struggle worthwhile. What once felt like an impossible challenge, rebuilding a family, trusting a father, and finding happiness again, slowly transformed into a reality they cherished. The triplets grew closer to him with every passing day, discovering that love was not just words, but actions, patience, and understanding. Mariah noticed subtle changes in herself too. She no longer felt the crushing weight of responsibility alone. There were still difficulties, of course, work demands, school projects, and ordinary life struggles, but now she had help. She felt lighter, more confident, and more at peace than she had in years. Watching her children thrive, seeing them smile and laugh freely, brought her a kind of joy she hadn't realized she was missing for so long. One afternoon, the family decided to take a trip to the city park. It was a sunny day, the sky painted with soft clouds, and the children's excitement was contagious. Elijah, Micah, and Josiah ran ahead, their laughter ringing through the air, while Mariah and their father walked slowly behind them, holding hands and talking quietly. For Mariah, this was more than just a trip to the park. It was a moment of reflection, a chance to appreciate how far they had come. Her thoughts drifted back to the struggles they had faced. There had been moments of fear, confusion, and even despair. She remembered the days when she worried that she might lose her children, the nights spent questioning whether she was doing enough, and the moments when she felt completely alone. But all of that pain now seemed like a distant memory. The strength of her children, the support of their father, and the love they shared had turned that darkness into light. At the park, the triplets climbed on the jungle gym, their small bodies moving with energy and confidence. Elijah challenged himself to reach the highest bar, while Micah laughed as he swung from one rope to another. Josiah, quietly determined, focused on completing the obstacle course with careful precision. Their father watched with pride, clapping and cheering for each of them. He realized that he had never truly understood the meaning of family until he saw the triplets grow, learn, and support each other in such simple, yet powerful ways. Mariah found a bench under a large tree, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. She took a deep breath and smiled, feeling grateful for the life she had now. Their father sat beside her, his eyes following the children with a mixture of awe and affection. "They've grown so much," he said softly. "I can't believe I almost missed all of this." Mariah reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "We all almost missed this," she replied. "But what matters is that we have now. We can choose to live fully, love each other, and make every moment count." As the day passed, they played games, shared snacks, and even flew kites together. The triplets laughed as the wind carried their colorful kites high into the sky, each one representing their dreams, hopes, and the new bonds they were forming as a family. It was a simple day, yet it felt extraordinary, because it symbolized everything they had fought for and everything they had gained. Later, on the way home, the children chatted excitedly about their plans for the weekend. Elijah wanted to build a small science project at home, Micah suggested drawing a mural in the living room, and Josiah, thoughtful as ever, talked about writing a story they could all illustrate together. Their father listened attentively, offering help and encouragement, showing that he was not just a visitor in their lives, but a part of it. Back at home, Mariah prepared dinner while the triplets set the table. Their father helped, showing them small kitchen tips and stories from his own childhood. The room was filled with warmth, chatter, and laughter, a stark contrast to the tension and uncertainty that had once filled their lives. They were no longer just surviving, they were thriving, creating memories that would last a lifetime. After dinner, the family settled in the living room for their nightly reading session. The triplets cuddled close to their mother, each holding a small blanket, while their father read aloud from a storybook filled with adventure, courage, and kindness. The children listened intently, occasionally asking questions or making comments that made everyone laugh. Mariah watched them, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. For the first time in years, she felt that their family was truly whole. Later that evening, once the children were asleep, Mariah and their father sat together quietly. The apartment was still, except for the soft ticking of the clock and the distant hum of the city outside. "I never imagined life could feel like this," Mariah said softly. "I thought happiness was something we could only dream about, not something we could actually live every day." Their father nodded, looking at her with a mix of admiration and love. "I know," he said. "I wasted so much time being absent, and I can't take that back. But I can be here now, and I can make sure the children never feel alone again. And I promise, I will always be here for you too." Mariah smiled, feeling the truth of his words in her heart. "We've been through so much," she said. "But we survived. We grew stronger. And now, we have the chance to create the kind of family we've always wanted. The following weeks were filled with new experiences and lessons. The triplets continued to grow in confidence, exploring their interests and discovering new talents. Elijah became fascinated with science experiments, often conducting small projects at home and explaining the results to his mother and father. Micah immersed himself in art, creating colorful drawings and paintings that decorated their walls. Josiah spent his time writing stories, sometimes sharing them with his family, who encouraged his creativity and imagination. Through it all, Mariah's father-in-law was a constant presence. He attended school events, helped with homework, and even taught the children about life lessons that went beyond books. He was patient, kind, and always ready to listen. Slowly but surely, the triplets began to see him not just as the father who had returned, but as someone they could rely on, trust, and love. One evening, as they all sat together watching the sunset from their small balcony, Elijah spoke up. "Mom, Dad," he said, "I think we're the happiest we've ever been. I feel safe, and I feel like we can do anything together." Micah nodded eagerly. "Yes. We're like a real team now. No one can break us apart." Josiah, quietly smiling, added, "We fought for this, and now it's ours. I'm glad we never gave up." Mariah's heart swelled with emotion. She looked at her children, then at their father, and realized that their journey had been worth every challenge, every tear, and every sleepless night. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and disappointment, but they had also discovered courage, love, and hope. Together, they had built a family that was stronger than any obstacle, a family that could weather any storm. The seasons changed, and with them came new adventures. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and small victories with joy and gratitude. The triplets excelled in school, made new friends, and explored their talents, always supported by both parents. Mariah continued to work, but now with a partner who shared the responsibilities and celebrated her successes. Their father embraced his role fully, becoming not just a father in name, but a true pillar of support and love. One quiet evening, as the family sat around the dinner table sharing stories of their day, Mariah realized how far they had come. The struggles that had once seemed insurmountable were now memories that reminded them of their strength. They had faced challenges together, fought for their happiness, and had come out stronger, closer, and more united than ever. As the triplets prepared for bed that night, Mariah tucked them in, kissing each of them gently on the forehead. "Remember," she whispered, "we are a family. No matter what happens, we face it together, with love and courage." The children smiled sleepily, their hearts full, knowing that they were safe, loved, and cherished. Downstairs, their father looked on, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. He had learned the true meaning of family not just through words, but through actions, patience, and unwavering love. He had missed years of their lives, but he had gained something even more valuable now, a family that loved him, trusted him, and accepted him as he was. As the city lights twinkled outside, the family sat together in quiet contentment. They had faced hardships, endured struggles, and experienced uncertainty, but they had also discovered joy, hope, and an unbreakable bond. Together, they had built a life full of love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes set on the future, Mariah, the triplets, and their father embraced each new day with hope, courage, and the unwavering belief that love, true love, could overcome anything. They were no longer just survivors of life's challenges, they were a family, strong, united, and ready to face the world together.